Evil Dead Burn is seemingly attempting to connect the entire franchise together. Is this something the series actually needs, and could this be setting up the next film in the franchise? Well, let's talk a little bit about it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I want to be a fighter, like you.
Oh, let it burn! Let it burn!
Did you miss me?
You have to shoot them in the head. They always come back.
The boat can leave now. Tell the crew.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Good luck.
Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and I'm wearing a beanie in the middle of summer. More importantly, I've just started a brand new channel called Human Egg Productions, where we're currently posting little short films every single Friday. If you're interested in checking out some of our horror and comedy short films, make sure to go check that out and subscribe. Also, if you like today's video, subscribe to this page too. We're talking about horror movies 24/7 around here. Alright, now let's get into this update.
Evil Dead Burn.
God help us.
Before we talk about Evil Dead Burn's connection to the past, I will give a light spoiler warning if you're somebody who has been avoiding the trailers like the plague and you don't want to know anything going into this one. You might want to skip today's video. We are certainly getting into some big theories about where I think the next two movies are about to go. We also have to break down little tiny details about the trailer in order to make some of these theories work, so again, if you don't want to know any of that before the movie comes out on July 10th, just skip this one. Watch at your own risk. Today's update centers around an interview with Hunter Duhan for Out.com. Here, he revealed that the film deals with the Kandarian dagger and a connection to Professor Nobi. His character Joseph is studying their family history and their grandfather's connection to the professor, who of course uttered the forbidden incantation from the Book of the Dead, as we heard back in the original Evil Dead film. Now, while that may just seem like a simple update, it has actually cracked open a major can of worms. Let's start digging through it. First of all, I think this says a lot about Joseph's character in Evil Dead Burn, which has already been teased to us quite a bit throughout all of the marketing. He seems like the lesser son in the eyes of his father, Edgar.
No. That's Will's seat.
Deadite Daddy is looking like the new big bad of the series in this upcoming entry, and he doesn't even need to be possessed by a Kandarian demon to be a total piece of shit. Joseph is likely a character who is trying to serve his emotionally abusive father and live up to his high expectations. I'm guessing Edgar favored his other son Will, who is now dead. It sounds a lot like Faramir and Denethor's toxic father-son relationship from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where Denethor takes out his rage on his living son over the death of his beloved Boromir. God, I need to rewatch those movies. That is a perfect trilogy.
You would not have known your son.
Boromir was loyal to me!
More importantly is this focus on trying to connect every single story from the past together. We've already seen shots in the trailer set at the lake from Evil Dead Rise, featuring a character that bookended the previous film. Last we saw of Jessica, she scalped her cousin and decapitated her cousin's boyfriend as a full-on Deadite. That is still one of the coolest title card reveals in all of horror history. Jessica is seen a few times in the trailer, and I believe she's the cause of Will's unfortunate accident. This will likely be the opening scene of the upcoming 6th entry. Talking about Professor Nobi for a second here, he is of course the archaeologist who discovered the Kandarian dagger as well as the Book of the Dead in Castle Kandar. He brought the cursed items back to the cabin in Michigan to study, but just a week after Nobi accidentally unleashed the Kandarian spirit, Ash and his stupid friends replayed his recording of the incantation. This led to the events of the low-budget film we all know and love. Now Evil Dead Burn is trying to rewrite history and say that Professor Nobi had some sort of other colleague we never knew about until now. More on that later. So that connects almost everything together, the original trilogy, Evil Dead Rise, as well as the TV show. But does it connect to Evil Dead 2013? While this interview doesn't confirm a connection to the Fede Alvarez film, I think there is something there. As we know, there are 3 Necronomicons that have all made their way to America in different ways. The one seen in the original Evil Dead, another in Evil Dead 2013, and the third hidden in a bank vault underneath the apartment complex in Evil Dead Rise, since the 1920s. While the original and the Evil Dead Rise books both have detailed explanations of how they got here, the book in Evil Dead 2013 is pretty mysterious. All we really know about that book in particular is that somehow it fell into the hands of the old lady seen during the opening sequence of the Fede Alvarez film, who of course helps purify Harold's daughter's spirit with fire.
I just want to go nuke.
So could Professor Nobi's colleague be the one responsible for giving that old lady the book all the way back then? I think that this whole element is being placed in the film to not only connect every previous story together, but also to set up what's to come next. I previously reported on Evil Dead Wrath being a prequel film set in 1972. Check out that video if you missed it. The big problem with setting an Evil Dead flick in 1972 is that the original Book of the Dead wasn't floating around here in the States until the early 80s. With the book in Evil Dead Rise being locked up in a bank vault during this time period too, that only leaves one Book of the Dead that could possibly influence the events of a 1972 set Evil Dead film, the one from Evil Dead 2013. So my guess is that Evil Dead Wrath will feature the grandfather character that's talked about in Evil Dead Burn during his prime in 1972. He discovers the 2013 book in 1972, some evil scary hijinks ensues, and then he goes on to team up with Professor Nobi. I'm guessing he'll have the goal of trying to destroy the Necronomicons, but Professor Nobi wants to study it.
Despite my warnings, they read from the book Unleashing Demons.
That could lead to some really intriguing conflict between those two characters and also explain the reason why we have never heard of this character until now. It would certainly be doing a better job at that than something like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, for instance, which is something I think Evil Dead Burn and Evil Dead Wrath need to do a good job at avoiding. Those late Jurassic World films get really messy with the lore. I'm thinking that Professor Nobi wanted this grandfather character out of the picture so he wouldn't interfere with his research. That would of course end up being a terrible decision on the professor's part, considering what happens to his poor wife Henrietta. Now this is just a theory of course, but I think there's something there, especially if my hours of research were worth anything. I definitely think this could be cool, but I am worried that Evil Dead Burn is going to strip this series of its episodic personality. Something I've praised about the recent Evil Dead sequels is how unique they all feel, allowing filmmakers to create their own personal entries without having to stay consistent with whatever came before. That spirit has been present with this franchise since the very first sequel, which dove headfirst into a strange mixture of slapstick comedy and supernatural splatter that no one could have expected. Sam Raimi set out to never make the same movie twice in this franchise, and I think that's a really important staple to remember for whoever takes up the reins next. I just really hope that Burn and Wrath doesn't ruin that element by trying to connect everything to the past. That is one of the strongest facets to the current Evil Dead franchise right now, not knowing what to expect from whatever comes next. I especially don't understand this motivation going all the way back to Evil Dead 2, which changed up the events of the original in order to make that film work. The Evil Dead franchise has never logically added up. Why are we trying to make all these dots connect here in part 6? While I am certainly worried that this is going to overcomplicate a series that should just be simple dumb fun, I am excited to see what the next two entries end up doing with the series. Evil Dead Burn looks immaculate, and setting one of these movies in 1972 I think is going to be fucking awesome. What do you guys think about Evil Dead Burn trying to connect all of the different stories together, and do you think this is setting up Evil Dead Wrath? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.